A new experiment by the enigmatic Dr. Voyan awards couples with $5 million if they spend 50 days in a spotless room. The award lowers to $1 million if one of them withdraws. The outside world is not communicated with, and there is no merely each other's company for enjoyment. However, they can purchase treats by using a portion of the winnings. Mike and Kate, the modern pair, anticipate easy money. Kate views this as their second opportunity, while Mike believes they are really lucky to have found this location. She does, however, add that, in order to make things simpler, perhaps they need just divide the cash. She wants to invest the money, which Mike finds terribly boring. He envisions his future as one of partying and enjoying himself without ever having to worry about money. They discover they weren't joking when they described the location as immaculate, after hearing the AI voice remind them of the regulations. The only things in the room are a bed and a bench, and everything is white. Additionally, there is a small restroom that they are only allowed to use one at a time, a red exit button, a touchscreen where they can ask for rewards, and a large clock that displays the amount of time they still have remaining in the experiment. Their meals consist of tasteless white shakes that are packaged in white cartons and are intended to meet their daily nutritional requirements. Additionally, the room has automatic lights that adjust during the day to signal morning, noon, evening, and when night falls, which is a sign they must heed to go to bed. While Mike intends to treat this as a vacation and sleep in late, Kate sets up an early alarm so she can maintain some feeling of routine. They can set an alarm on the touchscreen. On their first night, Mike tries to occupy Kate before they go to bed, but she is concerned that the professor might be watching them. Mike insists, so they ultimately do it in secret under the blankets. As soon as dawn arrives, Kate walks to the bathroom to check herself in the mirror and say a few encouraging words to keep her spirits high and her goals in mind. They both take a shower, put their clothing in the washing chute in the bathroom, and in return get pretty simple pajamas, but at least these are colored. To keep themselves occupied, Mike tells Kate about the documentary he saw about this guy's previous experiment, which resulted in a catastrophe for a blue-collar family. Kate is trying to figure out why Voyan is doing this experiment. Nobody is sure why Voyan did all of this. All they know is that he has a lot of money and enjoys using it to place individuals in unusual situations because he is fascinated by the human condition. Sooner than they anticipate, they run into trouble keeping themselves entertained. While Mike frequently fixes his gaze on the time, Kate enjoys quiet meditation. Mike, meanwhile, occasionally veers off on philosophical tangents on things like the meaning of the color white, which he dissects using all of his knowledge from art school, or the proper way to wash their teeth. While Kate frequently urges him to focus on the task at hand and avoid staring at the clock, it can be challenging for Mike to think positively when he has trouble even falling asleep. Making the bed and saying encouraging things to Mike are still part of Kate's daily routine. Mike attempts working out, primarily by running, while Kate meditates. They engage in hand-clapping activities, Marco Polo, or even dancing together. Every time they remove their filthy pajamas, they are handed an identical set of new ones. After a few weeks, something unexpected eventually occurs. Mike discovers a bug that has snuck into the room. Mike attempts to give it some of the milkshake after baby talking to it, but as soon as he spills a few drops on the ground, the AI voice reminds them that food can only be utilized for consumption by the contestants. Mike asks for a method of releasing the insect out and assures the bug that he doesn't want to leave since he worries that it won't survive in this environment. Mike decides to push the door opening button when Kate informs him that the speaker through which the AI voice emanates doesn't appear to be two-way despite her previous attempts. This causes a fight because, even if Mike doesn't actually depart and simply extends his hand for a pointless glitch, Kate is certain that pressing the button would result in their defeat. Kate accuses Mike of being condescending because she isn't vegan like him after he tells her the insect is a sentient thing and that she lacks compassion. As the dispute rages on, Kate ultimately admits that she believes Mike is only vegan because he wants to annoy his wealthy father, who provided for Mike's every need. As a result, Mike never experienced suffering, and now he wants to have hipster street art cred. When Kate attempts to leave this talk but trips over the bug, Mike finds it difficult to believe her when she claims it was an accident and extends her sincere apologies. Mike spends the remainder of the day pouting in a corner until deciding that enough is enough and that staying inactive is unhealthy. Mike will ask for one treat even though it subtracts $100,000 from their award because each of them is allowed to accept two. Despite Kate's disapproval, Mike goes ahead with his treat nevertheless, which turns out to be a single green crayon. Even if it's not much, Mike can now paint on the walls, which is something. After watching him for a time, Kate approaches him and requests that he draw her. Mike agrees. Kate no longer wants to be a model for him as a result of his refusal to create realistic portraits since he finds them dull and prefers to keep to his own style. When Mike runs out of crayon and leaves green stains all over the bathroom and the floor towel, Kate becomes angry and scolds him. Later, Kate apologizes for acting like a twit and says that although it is harder than she anticipated, they still only have 20 days left. Days go by in monotony until Kate wakes up one morning to discover a gun in the bathroom. Because the AI bans them from placing items other than clothing inside the washing chute, they choose to hide it under the bed because they are too afraid to check if it is loaded and because its presence is disturbing. The pair is eventually given Connect Time, which will play for them messages received by their loved ones, after some time has passed. Mike receives a message from his sister, who updates him on how she and their parents are doing while also expressing her suspicion that Mike and Kate are no longer dating. Mike is overjoyed to see his sister, but Kate doesn't want a connection of her own and becomes terrified when a video of her father appears on the screen, now that he is finally off the streets and residing in a shelter. No matter what Kate does, the video won't stop, so she flees to hide behind the bathroom door and sobs. Mike then approaches to console her. When the alarm goes off in the morning, Kate stays in bed all day since she can't get out of bed and is in a melancholy mood after sleeping by holding to her partner. When Mike expresses his concerns, Kate explains that she hasn't seen her father in a long time and that she has always lied to Mike about his identity out of shame for her father's reckless spending of the family home, Kate's school fees, and her prospects of developing normally. With just over 2 weeks left, Kate continues to stay in bed as Mike looks for new ways to pass the time. He may alter his paintings by smudging the crayon with his fingers or read the pajama label while playing out as many different emotions as he can. He tries to get Kate to eat by making jokes about the food, but it doesn't work, so he decides to get into bed with her in the hopes of helping her feel better. Mike occasionally chooses to sleep on the floor just to experience something different because it still doesn't work. He attempts to persuade Kate to take a treat one morning, but she refuses to risk losing that money. Kate is eventually motivated to get out of bed when Mike, who is growing more and more frustrated, says he's not sure he can do this anymore. However, she encourages Mike to accept his second treat even if it costs $250,000 before she gets in the shower. As he does so, Mike is astonished to see the door open and a woman named Simone who is completely naked enter the room. She has no knowledge of the project. She is merely an actor getting paid for a job that required her to sign numerous NDAs. Although she was scheduled for a month, her agent predicted that she would only be there for 24 hours. Simone needs to at least partially conceal her appearance because Kate doesn't appreciate her presence and demands Mike give her his t-shirt. Kate becomes even more irate when Simone observes Mike's artwork and compliments it, even pointing out the influences. When it gets dark, Simone offers to stay awake while the girls sleep and Mike offers to take the girls' beds and sleep on the floor. They're making an effort to be polite, but Kate finds it annoying and thinks they can all share a bed as long as she lies in the center. Kate is the one who has problems falling asleep that night. Simone is really in the bathroom when Kate wakes up in the morning and doesn't see her on the bed. Kate decides to take a treat because she can't handle it any longer and is given a small package containing 3 delightful candies. Simone accepts one from Kate right away, but Mike only accepts one after much deliberation. The 3 of them start to dance and thrash about the space while exchanging a few group kisses. After a while, though, Mike starts having awful dreams in which he sees blood all over the place and dreams that he is underwater while watching his younger brother fall with him. Although the women pull Mike back to reality, he remains fearful and requests to leave while making references to Sean and drowning. He needs to be coddled until he falls asleep, then Kate has to drag him back to bed. When Simone inquires as to what Mike had been discussing, Kate replies that he had been talking about his younger brother Sean drowning in the family pool while Mike was supposed to watch after him, which still bothers him. Mike was under the influence of drugs at the time, which aggravates his injury and explains why he hesitated to accept the candy at this location. When Simeone inquires about how they met, Kate recalls warmly how Mike approached her on a rainy day when she was without an umbrella and offered to catch all the raindrops so she wouldn't get wet. When Mike finally awakens, Simone reveals that she lost her mother when she was a little child, and the two of them develop a friendship over their shared experience of loss and sadness. When Kate sees them, she runs out, believing Simone is trying to steal her lover. Simone holds Mike's hand as she comforts him. Simone criticizes Kate's attitude and argues that she is truly insecure, which causes Kate to react aggressively. As Mike begs at them to stop before leaving, Kate tries to apologize by acknowledging that she probably saw nothing. Simone fanned the flames by responding that perhaps it wasn't. Mike isn't feeling well the next morning, but Kate is occupied with other tasks. Simone has finally left, but she left a note in green crayon thanking Mike for a great night on the wall. When Mike explains that he didn't do anything and that this is similar to the gun, something the room is doing to screw with them, Kate freaks out and doesn't listen. Kate knocks Mike to the ground out of rage, causing him to bleed and suffer head injuries. Mike moves away from her and explains that he has never cheated on her, not even when she moved to New York, that he stopped hanging out with his supposedly wealthy friends so as not to embarrass her, and that he put off finishing college in order to stay at home with her when she was depressed. But all he receives in return is jealousy. Kate is still sobbing and apologizing when Mike suddenly becomes lightheaded due to the wound, cutting off their dialogue. He genuinely believes he needs medical attention, but Kate gives him some of the meal shake so he can get some sugar in his system and covers his wound with a towel, pointing out to Mike that the contract specifically stated they didn't have any room for medical intervention. Mike finds it hard to trust what he's hearing and begins to wonder if Kate actually gives a damn. He is afraid of how far she might have gone if his wound had been bigger. Perhaps she would have let him bleed for money. However, his wound turns out to be minor and ultimately stops bleeding. Mike decides to leave and extends an invitation to Kate to do the same because he hates what this place has done to them and realizes that no amount of money would make them any less shattered. However, Kate declines, pointing out that because he's always had money, it's simple for him to talk like this, and she even gets the gun to intimidate him into staying. Only a few days before the victory, Mike chooses to ignore her and push the button instead, leaving the room at last. Once Kate notices the raindrop drawing on the wall after spending a lot of time lying around and stressing out in the shower, she decides to press the button and think about her alternatives since there are only 2 days left. Many months later, Mike, who is now single, is out on a run when he notices Kate emerging from a structure. They decide to go for a stroll to catch up because they haven't seen one another since the room. But when Mike asks Kate if she won or left the room, she avoids answering. But at least she apologizes for what happened. As they leave, it becomes clear that the structure is the homeless shelter. A sign on the building reads, "An anonymous donation allowed us to create the new kitchen." A fresh pair enters the spotless room in the meanwhile to accept the challenge.